Namyo Renge Kyo. Namyo Renge Kyo. Namyo Renge Kyo. Without realizing it, I was a pattern breaker in my family. I was a religious, spiritual pattern breaker in my family. I grew up Roman Catholic, and I remember being baptized Catholic at St. Felicitas Elementary School on Chicago's South Side on South Blackstone. Anybody remember St. Felicitas? That's where I went to school from kindergarten through the middle of 4th grade. My father grew up Southern Baptist in Northeastern Louisiana, and my mom grew up African Methodist Episcopal. And it was really important to both of my parents, but especially my mother, that all of us as a family, the two of them and my sister and I, be one religion. So when my parents moved to the neighborhood where they raised my sister and me, they met a lot of other Black folks in the neighborhood. And interestingly enough, a lot of Black Catholics in the neighborhood. And there are a lot of schools, Catholic schools and Catholic churches in the neighborhood. And so they met folks, and some of them invited them, oh, come to, instruction class or come to our church. And instruction class, if you don't know, is a class you can go and learn about the Catholic faith. A lot of Catholic churches and schools offer them. And my parents found a community at St. Felicitas. The people were warm, they were inviting, and they didn't think it was too big of a stretch to go from Protestantism to Catholicism. And so we were all baptized Catholic. And I remember, I think it was about maybe 5 or 6. And I remember just the look of the church. It was really tall and like very traditional, high ceilings. I remember the smell of stale holy water and candle wax. I remember the smell of, incense. And I remember being in my cute dress and a new pair of shoes, because of course, mommy wanted to make sure I looked really cute for my baptism. I remember many fond memories of some of my favorite teachers and my classmates, and playing at recess and Catholic church and being an altar girl. And my play big brother, Aaron, taught me how to be an altar girl. He was very involved in the church, and our families knew each other. He was 6 years older than I am, and we're still friends to this day. I remember some of my favorite teachers, like Mrs. Tatum and Mrs. Robinson. And then I went to St. Dorothy in the middle of 4th grade, 77th and Upper Hart. Anybody remember that? That school closed a few years ago. I have really fond memories of my teachers, both lay and nun. And as a matter of fact, I loved Sister Cheryl, my 5th grade teacher, so much, and was so inspired by her and Mrs. Tatum and Mrs. Robinson's love for learning, and women who sparked and nurtured my creativity and my curiosity, my endless questions in class. I loved them so much. And I looked up to Sister Cheryl so much that I actually wanted to be a nun at one point. And I remember going home one day after school, and I said, "Ma, I figured it out." Again, I was in 5th grade. I said, "Guess what I want to be when I grow up?" She's like, "What, baby?" I said, "I want to be a nun." She was not happy. She was not amused. And she was like, "Well, your dad and I are paying a lot in tuition for you to just be a nun. You can be a good person and make more money." But I say all this, I share this to say that I have many fond memories of growing up Catholic and being at St. Felicitas and St. Dorothy, and going to Catholic school yet again for high school, St. Ignatius College Prep on the West Side. And I remember first year of high school, Mr. Juilliard. Now, I was in high school at the time when the year was still freshman. People were still saying freshmen, not first years. And all of us as first years or freshmen had to take this class called Intro to World Religions. Okay. And I remember my mind totally being blown open. I learned about religions I had never even heard of, and at the time couldn't even pronounce, like Zoroastrianism. I remember learning about the Baha'i religion, Hinduism, and even learning, although it's not a religion, about agnosticism and atheism and Jainism and all of these different life religions and philosophies and practice. And I just felt like it opened up whole new ways of thinking and being and seeing ourselves in relationship to other people that I hadn't ever been exposed to before. You know, especially growing up in a Black neighborhood on the south side of Chicago. You know, and my parents, I think, did a pretty good job exposing my sister and me to different types of people and different, different cultures. But even still, you're Black, you grew up, in the United States, you're Catholic or not Catholic, you're Christian. And if you're not Christian, maybe you're Muslim, but it doesn't get really beyond those two religions. But this class, Intro to World Religions, really did expand my horizons and open me up. And something that I noticed was that in high school, I started asking more and more and more questions. Like, okay, God is a governing deity. God has control over us in the universe. We're supposed to pray to God. We're supposed to obey God. And although I was fortunate, not to grow up in a fire and brimstone kind of church or school at all, like it was a very loving and caring environment, I still couldn't reconcile that with so much of what was in the Bible and what I was told that, to be a good Christian, is to accept Christ as your savior. And then the idea of purgatory and hell, like, well, why would someone have to go to hell or be in purgatory? Like, so if a baby does not get baptized and the baby dies, the baby doesn't go to hell, but the baby is in purgatory? Some of these things just didn't make a lot of sense to me. And some of these things in the Bible even made me wonder, well, is this really a loving God? So I started having a lot of doubt, something that many of us Christian folks grew up being taught that we shouldn't have. But something I got from my teachers and my schooling was to always ask and explore why. And so I did. Well, why this? And what about this? And what about that? And over time, I just found that the theology of Christianity just wasn't resonating with me. The idea of a governing deity wasn't working for me. The idea of spirit and God being a male that I had to worship and obey just didn't make sense, wasn't resonating with me. The thought that if someone doesn't accept Christ or isn't a Christian, that something bad might happen, that didn't sound very Christ-like. That didn't really make sense to me. Jesus seemed like a pretty cool guy, very humane, even radical. It just wasn't squaring and making sense anymore. And the more I started to question, the more I started to learn, the less obligated I felt to practice something that just didn't feel right. And so I went to college. And by the time I was in college in 96 to 2000. And it wasn't a rejection of everything about Christianity. It's just that I didn't feel I was anything anymore. And I was really enjoying and embracing this period of being unaffiliated and just being able to be without any kind of religious or spiritual label. And the whole expression of spiritual but not religious, I know as trite as it might sound, it really did fit me. Then fast forward several years later, and I am at Affinity Community Services, which is an organization that's founded on the South Side 25 years ago. And it focuses on Black LGBTQ folks. And I remember it being a place of community where I could come and be myself. After graduating from college, women's college, Wellesley, and coming back to Chicago as a lesbian, I felt like I was going back into a closet again, living with my parents. And I remember finding community at Affinity. And a fellow board member, a woman, Kim, who wound up becoming my best friend, decided to host a meeting at Affinity. I had met her during my time on the board. And Kim decided to host an Intro to Buddhism meeting at the organization. We had all these different community and peer-led programs at Affinity. And there were some people in the community who were curious about Buddhism. And I don't know why, it just didn't occur to me that Kim was a Buddhist. And I was surprised. And I remember being at the meeting and hearing her talk about Nichiren Buddhism, which is the school of Buddhism I practice. And what she said about Buddhism just totally resonated with me. We are all one with the universe, right? We all get to be the creator of our lives. We all, without exception, regardless of our religion, regardless of our class, regardless of our creed, we all have value. That the things often that I was taught, to praise in a God and a governing deity, those same qualities of light and love and wisdom and courage and compassion are in me. And I remember hearing that and just finding that just so incredibly nourishing. And what really just sort of stopped me in my tracks was when she talked to us about Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, the mystery, or not the mystery, excuse me, the mystic law of the universe. And Nam Myoho Renge Kyo is a pulsating force inside of me, inside of you, and everyone. And when she led us in that chant, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, I just knew, I felt that this was my path. There's something about rhythm, music, vibration, and harmony. There's something about those words. I had said that Our Father who art in heaven years and years and years, and I enjoyed and appreciated my Christian prayers. But Our Father who art in heaven and the prayer of serenity had never resonated at that level to me like the words Nam Myoho Renge Kyo did. George Bernard Shaw has a quote saying, it goes, life isn't about finding yourself. Life is about creating yourself. And in my journey from Christianity to Buddhism, I find that I've become much more of a protagonist in my life, being an author, a creator of my story, and not just merely a character or a bystander in someone else's story. Buddhism has given me a way to view and treat the different pain and suffering in my life from childhood experiences and to embrace the joy. Everything in Buddhism has value. Everything can have value if we choose to see it that way. And through my Buddhist practice, I learned that some of the things that I experienced as a child that were painful, that I could use that as fuel to develop my compassion, my courage, and my wisdom. I experienced pain, but I am not my pain. I experienced suffering like we all do, but I am not my suffering. And I get to create joy. I don't have to wait for it to be anointed to me from on high. And this is so incredibly profound for me. I'm very grateful for my Buddhist practice, and I'm grateful for breaking the pattern of practicing Christianity merely out of habit, out of duty, and familial and cultural obligations. I'm grateful for this practice that's really helping me live my life on my terms. Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. Nam Yo Renge Kyo. Thank you.